All right, I'm going to be a Pat Shurmer defender, and I'm going to be hated for it because I'm right.
Right? To all the people watching on YouTube, I'm not talking out of my ass. I can kick better than Mono.
Welcome to the Folsom Frenzy podcast. It's an interesting day after an ugly, ugly game here at for the CU Buffs. But I'm here with Chase, Jake, and Topher and Sreyas, and we got a lot on our minds right now. It's been let's say 24 hours or so since we've been able to process what's been going on. And guys, how are you feeling? I want to hear your thoughts. I know how I feel.
It sucks. It sucks. This is going to be a rough podcast. It's going to be very passionate and it sucks. But just to give a hot take, or not a hot take, but quick thoughts on the game. I think Nebraska wanted this win a lot more than CU. You could see it in the fans, you could see it in the players, and that's what led to the win. I think CU underestimated Nebraska a bit. They didn't really realize how raucous the environment would be, and I think it led to the loss. On top of that, I thought offensive play calling sucked, for lack of a better word, and defense. There are some good things there. And we'll kind of talk about this a little bit more in the pod, but Shador also had a really rough game. And when your star has a rough game, that just does not set you up well.
Listen, we've been riding high on beating Nebraska. We were due to lose to Nebraska. Like,
That's why I made that pick.
I hate to say that, like, it's tough to beat a team 4 times, but it's tough to beat a team 4 times. I think my biggest disappointment is that the 2018 and 2019 games with Nebraska were instant classics. Some of the best football games that I've ever seen. Last year's and this year's, to be honest, I love last year's results. The game kind of sucked. Like, I hate that it wasn't competitive, and I feel like that's kind of what last night's game felt like too, is we just weren't competitive. We weren't ready to go.
Yeah, before the game, my thoughts were we needed to start fast. We needed to. I like that we received the ball. I can't remember if we won or lost the toss, but we needed to start fast, and we did the exact opposite. And from the get go, the game was lost. And I think people are talking about how Mike McIntyre went into Lincoln and won, and yeah, I mean it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, this is not an existential loss. I think Nebraska is probably going to be a decent team this year. Their front seven's really, really good on defense. We'll talk about that more later. But at the end of the day, we lost to a team that's probably going to be ranked. It's already ranked in the AP top 25, but probably going to be a ranked, hang around there kind of team, probably upper Big 12 or Big 10 team this year. And we lost on a road game. And, in the second half, we actually looked like we figured some things out, not on offense, but certainly on defense. And so I understand the sky is falling and it sucks to lose Nebraska, but I think people are probably overreacting to this loss. I think the wheels have not fallen off. I think we'll really know after Colorado State it's a must win. I mean, the wheels are going to fall off if we don't beat Colorado State, but if we can get that win and get back on track, this season's not lost. That was a good team, and we went to a Big Ten schools stadium, and it's a tough environment. And yeah, we got punched in the mouth, but if we'd been blown out in the second half, I probably would have been more pessimistic. But I'm going to be the voice of the sky is not falling. It's going to be okay. We're going to vent about how horrible this game was. We're going to vent about how horrible our Twitter mentions have been. But at the end of the day, I think we also need to take this with a grain of salt and remember that was a tough team. Coach Rule, he's going to get it figured out. And so I don't think it's the end of the world necessarily. I think people need to take a deep breath and it'll be okay.
That's a really measured take. I really like that, Chase. I think for me, the really disheartening part and the thing that was probably my biggest takeaway is our trenches just got completely manhandled. And I am so sick of this. It's not just last year. This has become a calling card for a program. We've talked about this before, but even back in like 2012, when we had David Bakhtiari and Daniel Munyer on our line, which are two NFL guys, one NFL guy who was an all-pro performer in the NFL for many years. We were still atrocious. we were not able to get short yardage when we needed it, and that's what we saw. Like we saw that against North Dakota State. We saw that last night, and it's really, really disheartening. I don't know how you're going to sustain any type of success offensively, or frankly even defensively. Although we'll get to some of the positives that we saw there too, without being able to win the trench battles. And I'm very, very concerned about that moving forward. And that's really, I think I'd mentioned this in the season prediction pod episode, but that was a huge hinge point in my pick last year to win 8, and a huge hinge point me picking them to win 7 this year. It's like improved O-line play, and then this year also improved D-line play. And you can call it a big test, which it is, right? We know Nebraska, even through all their bad years, where maybe they were lacking skill position talent in certain facets, they were lacking quarterback play that was competent for many, many years. They always had good lines, and they even played well last year, other than the turnovers. They got to Shedeur 7 times last year. Was it 6 times last night? It was a very high number. It was a very high
Unreasonable
number.
amount.
6.
So
It was 6.
yeah, they have a talented group there, but we didn't step up to the plate. And this was the calling card, right? From the moment that the season ended last year, Coach Prime was in the media being like, we're going to sort this out. We're going to be in the portal. We're going to go find these guys. We're going to go make it happen. And this is one of the big talking points we'll get to, but we're starting to get to the point where we might question the methodology here and whether that's a sustainable approach to building a team. So with that said, Jake, you were actually there with your family, we'll say, getting roasted a little bit. But how's the environment? Honestly, on TV, it looked incredible. It looked like the Nebraska fans got up for this more than any other game I'd seen in recent memory. Maybe a few years ago, they had a game against Ohio State where they started the game with that kind of juice, and then they kind of let it fall off after that. But it was pretty sustained last night on TV.
Yeah, so I was saying before we were recording, I'm very curious. I was not at the game when it was in Lincoln 2 years ago, whenever that was. Very curious what the environment was like this game compared to back then, because Nebraska fans were very eager, very hungry. Some were confident, but I think both sides were nervous, right? We're two programs that are trying to come out of the dust. Both hired head coaches from the NFL at the exact same year. Coach Prime says that all the time. But Nebraska fans wanted this, and they wanted it more than CU fans. I was a little bummed that I didn't see as many CU fans as I thought I would. But every CU fan I saw, I gave them a fist bump and said, "Go Buffs." But to give the listener a little bit of background, if you haven't been listening, my entire in-law family are huge Husker fans. Shout out to my father-in-law. He gave me the ticket. I got to sit in the Nebraska section, which is basically just a bunch of season ticket holders from Nebraska. I sat next to a guy that had a season ticket for 65 years. And my father-in-law has had his ticket for over 100 years, he said. He said they bought it when the stadium was built. His grandpa got it. So, with that context, these Nebraska fans have been fans for so long, and they've seen good football, right? I mean, they have 5 national championships. This is the number one thing to do in Nebraska, right? Memorial Stadium is, I think, the 3rd largest city after Lincoln, I think, because Omaha, then Lincoln. On game days, the stadium's the 3rd largest city. So it's the same thing to do, right? And on game days, this pains me to say, but the tailgating environment was awesome. It's better than CU's. I think a big part of that is because their stadium fits double the size of Folsom, but also just the tailgating scene is awesome there. They got a bunch of bars open and beer gardens and tailgates all over the place. And you could tell there was just a different energy around the stadium. And yeah, the fans are pumped. So I was nervous. And again, every Nebraska fan I talked to was also nervous. It was interesting hearing Nebraska fans' thoughts on Colorado, because they totally, even my family, right, who probably sugarcoats some thoughts, I guess. They even said, they want to see, Coach Prime do bad. They're like, Shiloh's a dirty player, which I could see how an opposing fan thinks that, right? He has a couple late hit flags, and I totally get it. but you could just see the bad blood, which is so fun. But yeah, it was awesome being there. I got a chance to meet Savion Riley's family. They're awesome. Got a chance to see the Buffs pull in, and even pulling in, the players looked locked in. They had the headphones in. They were all business. The Nebraska fans were jeering them, but even pulling into the stadium, they looked locked in. But then I saw that clip of Travis Hunter coming out of the tunnel dancing around, and I'm like, oh man, I hope he can back that up. And then that first drive, you see Travis Hunter still dancing around to the FCU chants. Like, oh boy, I hope we're ready. And we'll kind of get into the game. But I'm looking at my notes, seeing if I got everything. One thing to add is I saw a bunch of tweets today saying, is Nebraska's home stadium one of the best environments in college football, if not the best, right? Because it was probably the loudest that stadium has been in maybe 5 years ish. It's the loudest place I've ever been in. On the first drive when Shedeur Sanders got sacked on third down, that was the loudest the stadium ever got. And just from the get-go, those fans were pumped. And I was very nervous from the get-go. But yeah, just shout out to that environment because it was loud. It was pretty, it was yeah, it was loud.
I'm glad you got to go. I know the result was bad, but at the end of the day, we're also fans of the game, and it is really cool to see the cathedrals. I know, Chase, you were with us in Kansas, right? When we went to their basketball stadium,
Allen
Allen
Fieldhouse.
That was amazing. That was just it's a cathedral of the game, and that's a historic team, and they really showed up. And I can understand like from their perspective with all the media attention and all of that, like the Times Square billboard and all of that, and the constant flood of negative news on CU and Coach Prime and all of that, why they would be extra spicy about it. But
one other quick
I'm
thing
glad you
to
got to
add too is their stadium does a really good job of engaging fans, and I wish Folsom did a better job. Meaning, like their marketing department on the Jumbotron does a great job picking songs, picking graphics to make the crowd loud. You have the Will Compton video that gets them super pumped up, and I thought they did a great job with that. And I would love to see you step up their game,
Especially with
Yeah.
that nice brand new giant board that they spent all
Yeah.
that money on. So they should really
We
put
should,
it to use.
no matter what happens in the future, we got to somehow name that board after Coach Prime. That was his board. He got that for us with all the revenue. Or we could name the board after TCU, because TCU really got us that one. After we beat them, that TCU win last year made this program so much money. It's
the
insane.
Dylan Edwards board.
The
Yeah.
Dylan Edwards
Colorado.
it's gonna be so funny like 10 years from now, thinking back on this era, no matter how things turn out. Like, it was just such a, like, last season and the start of this season is just so crazy, and I know none of you guys are, unfortunately, 3 of us were stuck branded with this on our resumes for the rest of our life. Maybe Topher someday you can join us. I'm sure you're thinking about your ways to be branded by this, suffering. But being stuck with this for the rest of our lives, like, it is just a very, very interesting time to be a part of this. And the fact that we're all here talking about this at all, and there's actually people who want to listen to this, is incredible. Really cool. With that said, let's get into some hot takes, because I know we've all got hot takes. Buff Nation's got hot takes. I was at a watch party with a bunch of other alums from when I was in school, and everyone had their hot takes. So let's go around. Jake, why don't you start? I feel like you're a good hot take starter. Always, actually nationally relevant now. We can say he's a nationally relevant starter of hot takes with all of our interesting tweets.
Yeah, we tweeted out some smack talk, and we'll take it. We'll take those Nebraska replies.
We'll take the
That's what
licks.
makes the rivalry great, right? Bring it on. So, these are gonna be really hot. I from all of us. So tune in. These should be clipped, and I'm a bit nervous to say these hot takes, but they're true, and I think they're what Buff Nation is thinking. And are they a slight overreaction? Probably. Will you hear these hot takes on any other podcast? No, because we don't have a media credential. And that's what makes our podcast great, is we're going to tell you how it is. We've been CU fans for over 20 years. I mean, combined over 100 years. So, yeah, I mean, this is just diehard fans being passionate and sharing our takes. But my hot take, I'm nervous to say this, but I think you guys will agree with me. Coach Prime is not a good in-game coach. He's not a good coach other than recruiting. And
Motivating.
he's probably, I was going to say a good motivator, but I just have not been impressed with the play calls. And let me back up. But before I get into this, I want Coach Prime to be the coach of CU. I think he's the best chance to take us to the promised land. I like Coach Prime as our head coach. But what I have seen over the last 2 years is he's not a good in-game coach, and it drives me crazy. Run game. I know the coordinators pick the plays, but ultimately it comes down to the head coach, right? Ultimately, all those decisions come back to the head coach. Run game. How many games have we had where that you have 20 rushes or more in the last 2 years? Any?
Any?
I don't
I
know.
don't even know if there's any. Yeah.
Like,
If
it's
you
not
count
that hard.
the sacks that Shador takes as rushing attempts, yes.
Or
We've
A
had
lot.
maybe
We had
the
52
Utah-
of those last year.
The
Right,
Utah
but
game
running
we gave
game-
up on. Yeah.
That's an easy fix, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. Just run the football more. Stop running the ball from shotgun. I'm not going to get into it that much. Easy fix. The timeouts, the game management is awful. Every single game, even Nebraska, we waited forever to call a timeout. The deciding to use Mata for kicks. Sorry, Mata, we love you. You're a great guy. We'll get into that later. I'm
We
kind of
literally
giving a
asked you. I
preview.
begged you.
of
I
our
begged you, and we
podcast.
made a clip of it. We begged you to make me believe in you. And
Oh
you
man!
scorned
Again,
me.
we love everyone on the team. I'm trying to think if I don't like anyone. I don't. They're all great guys. But okay, going back to the coaching, it just drives me crazy. You have like Cole Becker leaving this team, and I know we're going to talk about this too. It just makes me pull my hair out. I'll stop because I'm talking about our whole podcast right now. But that's my hot take. Is Coach Prime is not a good in-game coach. And again, I want him to be CU's coach. I haven't seen enough to want to get rid of him, and that's going to take a high bar. I think Coach Prime is the answer, but it's just so frustrating.
I
Who's up
actually,
next?
well, I was just very quickly, I was going to say, I told a bunch of people that Sreyas was probably going to go on a 10-minute rant about the timeouts. I think you're 100%
I'm like
correct.
biting my hand
and
right now.
we're keeping it short, but like that has got to be the worst, maybe the most egregious coaching mistake. And it's the frustrating part is that it's not just like it's every week we'll only make that mistake once, but it's like a new mistake where you should have known to call the timeout going into the half, right? Like that anyone knows that. Literally everyone knows that. So just like maybe definitely worse than picking to go first in overtime.
Yeah.
Do
Do you guys agree with me with that take? Give me some sort of validation.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
thumbs
I don't think anyone's gonna anyone that's being objective about the program would not disagree with that. Like it's
we
just
were
simple.
thinking of this for a while. We were thinking this
And the
for
most
a while.
the most frustrating part is like this is not even the hardest part of coaching, right? People can practice clock management. We have video games that help us practice clock management, and it is surprisingly realistic. So like, just play a couple games, and you know what to do.
And we've said it
It's
before. Hire
instinct.
statistics. Hire statistics kid. Literally just go to the math department. Literally take the first
You
one
don't
and
have
say
to pay them. They'll do
your
it for
job
free.
is to tell me you press a button that will shock me and I will call a timeout. Like that's it. That's all you need. You push the other button and I will challenge the play. Like that's it. That's all
That's
you
your
need.
job.
And we would be better. And please come over to me when we're deciding if we're gonna kick or defer, or defer or receive.
If
Like,
we
just
should kick a field goal or throw a Hail Mary before half, come and talk to
just
me.
so frustrating. No, but I think you're 100% right. Like I think the in-game coaching has been really, really, really bad, and it's fixable, but it's gone on for way too long, and it's costing us some serious, EV. Like you're gonna lose games because of it, and who knows? Like I don't know. It's just we probably didn't lose this one just because of coaching mistakes, but we're walking a fine line. It's got to stop.
I'm sitting here wearing a Broncos jersey, and then the thought I keep having is he must have gone to the Vic Fangio school for clock management, because it's a lot of the same stuff that we saw under Vic. Just not using timeouts when you have them at the end of the game. I mean, I even think about the USC game last year. Remember the USC game where we scored all those points in the second half and USC started falling apart? And if we had more time, we might have been able to pull it out, but they were out there not going no huddle with no timeouts left as the time was running out. They scored a touchdown, hooray, but then didn't have any other choice but to go for an onside kick. Didn't get the onside kick. USC ran out the clock. I mean, come on. Give yourself a chance, right? Give yourself a chance. And at that point in time, we were not really diving in too hard on that because we were just still kind of happy to be competing in that game compared to where we were. But now you can look back on that and say, okay, that was a very clear. I mean, there's not much in-game coaching you have to do as a head coach if you're not a primary play caller yourself, right? But you got to know how to use the clock, right? And I know I'm sitting here on my pedestal as someone that's never coached at any level of football, right? And I didn't even play, like I brought this up before. I didn't even play football. I've been playing baseball my whole life. So who am I to judge? But at the same time, after you've been watching this for so long, you play video games, like you guys said, some of this is common sense, or at least you'd like to think it's common sense. And we know that it's not just us talking about this because the entire world was going crazy about this on Twitter. It was exploding. Topher, at the North Dakota State game, that one idiot who was complaining to us about how we were being overly negative about throwing the ball on first down with a minute 40 left. What was the first thing we saw when we got back? Twitter just going crazy, like, what were they thinking? Why would you throw the ball on first down? You could have run out the clock. End the game. You have the game won. Like, and so that's the Mario Cristobal moment, right? You have a Mario Cristobal moment there. You got a Vic Fangio moment when you're invoking these names, those specific names, it carries a lot of negative connotation and it's completely warranted, right? That has to stop. That has to stop. We know it's possible. He can stop doing it, right? These are correctable things, but we can't put ourselves behind the 8 ball when we're already putting a target on our back every week. Every team is getting up. You can see clearly that every team gets up for CU. It means a lot more because there's eyeballs, there's a lot of hatred, that there's a lot of people who only watch CU for the opportunity to dunk on us and that type of stuff. Why would you give them any more fodder? That's crazy, man.
And it was also last year, right? Stanford, the going for it on overtime. But before, Topher, you kick it off with your hot take, I want to say all these hot takes are negative. Stick with us because I thought there were some positive things to take from this game. It's not all negative. Go for it, Topher.
So as much as Coach Prime is not an in-game coach, I fear our offensive coordinator just lacks basic football philosophy. I don't know how you can get to that level of football and just have no rhyme or reason for your play calling. Like usually when you're playing Pee-wee football, you get coaches that are calling plays that they don't really have thought process. But when you start getting paid, and this is even in high school, when you start having to coordinate for high school football teams, you see offensive coordinators or, competent offensive coordinators going, we are going to run right off tackle because our tackle is our best run blocker. And after that, we're going to set them up. So now they're going to be primed for that. So I'm going to come back with a play action the next time so we can boot out. So if the linebackers step up, we have space to attack. I saw nothing, no plan, no setup, no ideas, no rhyme or reason in anything Pat Shurmer called. Horrible.
This is a former NFL head coach, by the way. 2 other NFL teams paid this guy to be their head coach, only for 2 years at a time. And there's another team, a third team, that he was an interim coach for 1 game. This is a guy who's spent years, decades even, you could say, carving a name for himself somehow in this sport. And he had no success in the NFL, by the way, right? His teams were 19-46. And we all know Broncos fans, we know all about Pat Shurmer and what a disaster he was for the Broncos. And of course, the Broncos are still a hot mess. So let's not absolve them from that. It wasn't just Pat Shurmer's fault. But some of these things seem to have bled into what he's doing now. It's insane. And one of the sad things I will say is I was somewhat of a Pat Shurmer defender last year because what I did like that he was doing down the stretch was slowing down the game. I always thought that Sean Lewis's offense, when it was dialed in, it was amazing. When it was dialed in, it was amazing. Against TCU, it was absolutely incredible. Against Nebraska, it was incredible. And then it just went off a cliff because we were just flying through and just playing way too fast. And then that happened in the first game against North Dakota State. North Dakota State dominated the ball. They had the ball a lot more than we did. And then now we saw what happened against Nebraska. And it seems like the things that I liked that Pat Shurmer was doing at the end of the last season, like that kept us close against Oregon State and kept us close against Arizona. We won't talk about Wazoo. It was a disaster. And then Utah was, we were playing against a fourth string quarterback from Utah and Shedeur was out, blah, 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 right? But I like some of those bits and pieces of what we saw there. It doesn't seem like any of that has carried over to this season, though. Well, not yet, at least. It's been very disappointing.
All right, I'm going to be a Pat Shurmer defender, and I'm going to be hated for it because I'm right. And I have to say, everyone's blaming the offensive coordinator. People who don't even know Pat Shurmer's name are blaming the offensive coordinator because they're armchair watching the football games on TV and the offense isn't scoring a lot of points, and they go, it must be the offensive coordinator's fault. I think, and this will bleed into my hot take. I won't say it, but I think Pat Shurmer's offense does a good job of trying to acknowledge the fact that we have big time playmakers and a really bad offensive line. And he would prefer to get the ball in the big time playmakers' hands as much as possible. And so people hate it, but that's why we have these bubble screens, and that's why we have these slants, and that's why we're doing these short passes, because Shedeur's running for his life and he needs to be able to just hit the first guy that he sees. And that's what Pat Shurmer's calling. And it's not working because our offense is so one dimensional, because the offensive line is truly atrocious, and they were terrible this past game against a pretty good front seven. But I think the issue is that people are upset because the offense is bad, but the offense is bad because the offense is bad. Like the offensive line is so bad that nothing can be run through it. And so Pat Shurmer's doing the best, I think, with what he can, with trying to get the ball into Travis Hunter's hand. And people were getting upset about it on Twitter. They're like, oh my God, you cannot just throw it to Travis Hunter 5 times in a row. You have to, because you need to get the ball in his hand and let him go make a play. Because that's what your team is. That's what you've built your team to be. And so you need to exploit what you have. I don't think that's Pat Shurmer's fault. I think that's Pat Shurmer trying to fix a problem that is way
Chase,
bigger than that.
What about not running the ball? What about these stupid screens at the beginning of the game against a fast Nebraska team?
Because you can't run the ball, because what happens? We start the game and we immediately turn it over on a 3-and-out or whatever it was. I can't remember. Do we fumble? And Nebraska gets the ball and runs down the field and scores. And then you're on your 4-yard line or wherever we were. And Shedeur immediately just stares a guy down like he's trying to romance him, and throws an interception, immediate touchdown. So now you're down 14 points. You have to claw back. And we never established the run, but even Coach Prime in his post-game conference mentioned it. He said, we weren't able to, we wanted to establish the run. Our plan was to establish the run, but we were immediately behind, and we felt like we needed to play catch up. And that's why we were passing all over the place. I think that's a tactical decision.
I'll pause my rebuttal when we get to the run game, because I think there's some packages that are not helping.
I think we should run more. I agree. But I also understand why they felt like they needed to make a play happen, because if you get too far behind, you're going to be left behind. And that's what happened. Right.
Yeah. To egg you on a little bit about the Shedeur play, I thought that was the moment that the game was over.
That pick six. On the third drive.
Yeah.
Our second.
After that, I said out loud, "Oh, it's over."
That was cooked. The second loudest the stadium was that moment. Chase, what is your hot take?
And maybe, since we're baiting it out, I'll just say it. I actually think, and Jake's going to clip just this part with no context, and I'm going to get absolutely axe murdered on Twitter. But I think Shedeur lost us this game, and I think that requires the context of that interception was inexcusable. It was you stared at your guy forever. Everyone knew that's where the ball was going, and he jumped
to the wide side of the field.
Yeah, I mean, like, what you couldn't write up a interception touchdown better than that. Like it was horrible. But the problem was, one, after that happened, Shedeur looked like he was playing like he was losing his mind. Like he didn't really get locked in. I didn't feel like there was really a lot of composure. And you're the leader on this team. Like you've got to lock in and do it. And I get it. The offensive line was terrible, and that's probably the bigger reason. But I think that was frustrating. And then leaving the field at the end of the game is just unacceptable. And people are going to lose their minds about that on Twitter, and they deserve to, because you are the guy. You've come in and you are the leader of the team, and you are the quarterback, and you are the coach's son, and you have played that role beautifully up until now. You were always the guy. You never threw your offensive line under the bus, right? He never did that. And people would talk about that and be like, that's crazy. And then he did it last night.
I don't know though. I truly think it was because he was injured. That's what Coach Prime said, and I'll take him at his word for that.
Unless you're going to the emergency room, that's your backup quarterback.
true.
That's the guy that goes and gets the
True.
reps every day.
He could wait for another
and
2
never,
minutes.
Exactly. He never gets the credit. He's the guy that's busting his butt out there to make your team better. And you're not going to go out there. You're not going to stay the last 2 minutes and watch him walk into the locker room with your team. Like, I don't know. I think that's unacceptable. And normally we try to, we want to be pro. We love Shedeur. Like, no question. I'm just saying that those were things last night that were loser football. And I think he definitely hurt his draft stock last night, unfortunately. And he made some really special plays. And again, it's not all his fault. It's probably not even the majority of his fault, but I just, that was my hot take, because I just felt like I was really, for the first time, disappointed. And like the talking bad about the O-line in the press conference, I get it. You're frustrated. It's true. Like, everyone knows that, but you've been the character guy and the high road guy, and maybe it gets exhausting and you just couldn't do it anymore. But it was just disappointing to see that. And I get the frustration, but
What did y'all
Yeah,
make of the comment that he made about the pick six being a rookie mistake? Do you think that he was referring to himself, or do you think he was referring to Draylon and there was some miscommunication there where it should have been?
Whitlock, what's his first name? Whitlock, who hates CU, tweets it out like, Shedeur's blaming the freshman wide receiver, calling it a rookie mistake. I personally think he was talking about himself. Like, what was the mistake? It was a comeback route.
Yeah,
Draylon did it. Maybe he ran it too long, but even if he did, the quarterback jumped it pretty well.
He stared him down.
That was the problem. Correct. But he did have enough separation, so I kind of get why Shedeur threw it, but that was the problem. He stared it down. It was across the
on
field.
the far side of the field. It takes a full business
day
day to get that far across the field.
You guys are
watch the clip. Watch the clip and just watch Will Shepherd, and then tell me that wasn't Shedeur's fault.
Okay. Yeah.
Dude, you remember
that was the worst read I've ever seen.
Do you guys remember Nathan Peterman? I can't remember what team he played for in the NFL, but he was like a ridiculously bad quarterback. He was awful, but he just kept getting opportunities.
We're comparing
Shedeur
to him.
that one play, and it just shows you, like, he was a obviously he was a quality.
All right, I want to clip that without any context, by the way. I want Sreyas, the Peterman and Shedeur, and that could be
just the one play.
It was a very Nathan Peterman.
We need Sreyas in the hot seat. There's not enough Sreyas hot seats. So, no, but yeah. Well, I did want to add, like, I think that's valid, Chase. And like, you have the one play. It was like a 20-yard throw to Travis Hunter, and there was pass interference on the throw by Nebraska, but it was 10 yards out of bounds. And it's like, yeah, you can't call PI. It was not catchable. There were a lot of throws that he missed. It was not Shedeur. It was not
Travis Hunter. It could have been catchable.
It was not your typical Shedeur. I think we're all still Shedeur Sanders believers. Don't get us wrong, but he had a bad game, and he's human. He's going to have a bad game.
Very last to clean it up, still holding the ball too long. And I thought when he was zipping it out of there yesterday, he looked surgical. He looked great, but he'd start looking, and he doesn't really run. And so he would make bad sacks worse by running backwards, trying to extend the play instead of just throwing it away or trying to run for it. But it's really, I mean, that kills your team. And it just didn't feel like he ever got the team to believe that they could come back in it. And so, I don't know. That was my, and I think so we have Topher.
Why do you think Shedeur was holding the ball for so long? Could it be play designs that were long developing routes despite having a terrible O-line?
Well, the counter.
Whose fault is that?
Hold on.
Oh my God.
I will say, if you rewatch the game, but you can't watch the head view, but I actually do. I was a little disappointed, and I meant to bring this up, where it looked like wide receivers were not extending routes, like improvising. And sometimes they were just kind of walking around when Shedeur's running for his life, because they're just assuming
it was more the new ones, like LeJohntay, Will Shepherd.
Yeah, no, I mean, Travis never stops running. Travis never stops running, but some of those other guys were not running. And I don't know if you saw that in the stadium, Jake, probably better, because you couldn't really, I mean, there were just on the replays, you could see it on TV, but that's another thing. If you know your guy's running for his life, you got to find a way to imprise and make his life easier. And I don't really
get to that side of the ball.
And that would not be on the offensive coordinator.
Over there.
But before Topher's able to destroy me with facts and logic, Sreyas, you're up.
Yeah. I mean, this is really piggybacking off of everything that we've been talking about right now. I know we've been really picking on the offense, and I'm just going to flat out make the hot take that this offense isn't good enough to win 6 games right now. And if we have basically lose the trenches the way that we did in this game, the rest of the season, which happened a lot last season too, we're going to be 4-8. or 5-7 at best, right? Because maybe we actually finish a game like the Stanford game this year instead of giving it up like last year. I don't like what I saw there. It was just too reminiscent. It's such a familiar refrain. You know, my first time experiencing this in person was the CU Texas game in 2008. We came into that game like super, super happy. I mean, we just lost on the road to Florida State, but we were 3-1, like feeling really good. Basically the school is promoting that game so much. Like this is a huge opportunity to get back to relevance. Year after losing to Nick Saban in the Independence Bowl, Alabama's first year with him as their coach, and we just got dominated. And part of it was missed field goals too, right? Our kicker at the time missed, I think, I want to say 3 field goals in that game, and that definitely hurts. But we just didn't show up, just did not show up to that game. And that was like the most ingratiating moment, like as a fan being there and experiencing that, like, oh wow, this is possible. It is possible to get so thoroughly dominated that you might as well just go home in the first quarter. And as an NFL fan before that, it's not something you see that often. The NFL, if your team is consistently good, which the Broncos were at that point, we at least were mediocre year after year. So you weren't used to seeing just a complete domination where you don't even have a chance and never had a chance in the game. And over the years, we just kept seeing that refrain over and over again. We saw it against Mizzou in like 2009, right? We saw it basically in that one CSU where we lost to CSU at home 2000. It's just over and over again. There's these games where all of a sudden you're just dominating the trenches. It happened against CSU last year too, because we couldn't move the ball, right? 7 of our points until the very end of the fourth quarter and overtime. 7 of those points were on a pick 6 from Shiloh. We couldn't move the ball, and that's another reason why looking at Sean Lewis, right? Everyone hyped Sean Lewis up, but Sean Lewis had one really, really good game against TCU. The offense looked so good against TCU and gave us so much hope. But after that, like, sure, the turnovers helped us against Nebraska. And then the CSU game, they just looked so, so bad until like they basically CSU learned to prevent defense. Jay Norvell blew that game for CSU. I'll stand on that, right? Jay Norvell, he was basically Dion outcoached Jay Norvell just by having a pulse. Jay Norvell was awful in that game. This cowardly decision making up and down. I know this isn't a CSU podcast and I'm sitting here complaining about this, but that really is what did it, right? Our offense was hapless in that game. We weren't making anything happen, and then all of a sudden we're in prevent defense, and all of a sudden Jimmy Horn gets a touchdown. Then the next week, Oregon. We don't even need to talk. We just say Oregon. Everyone knows what we're talking about, right? That was what it was like through all the Mike McIntyre years, the Embry years, half the Hawkins years, half the season with Mel Tucker was like this. It was the same old thing. It was the same old thing. Okay, I see what you're okay, Chase, right? I see you talking, about me ranting about the old days, but seriously, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. We're seeing the exact same thing happening again. We're not supposed to. This is supposed to be a new era. This is supposed to be a new era. We have new personnel. What are we doing?
Shreyas, I'm sorry. I have to meme you. You're gonna get memed after this pod.
Sorry for those of you listening. Chase pinged. Any thoughts on this season, Sreyas?
I'm like so traumatized by what I've seen in the past, and it's happening again, right? I just hate that. I can't believe it. And please show me something different. Please prove me that this is not the same offense we're going to get the rest of the year. Because if it's the same result. It's the
this
same
is what makes our
thing
podcast unique. We're so
it's
jaded.
Same thing.
We're trying to let go of hell. We really are.
Listen, I don't think we're gonna let go of
head.
head. We are reserving spots in hell. Please make your accommodations at Folsom Frenzy Podcast.
Hey, speak for yourself. Oh my gosh.
We're seeing so much of it, guys. Like, oh my god.
Well, it's hard, right? Because we're still seeing the same things. You hit that. You said it earlier, Sreyas. Like their offensive line has been bad for 20 years, and I know it's different with Coach Prime, and it is, and that's true. We need to let go of hell, but It's so hard being a CU fan. Okay, slight tangent, but all the Nebraska fans were to me after the game. All my family was like, it's just so great that we finally got to see him pull it through because we've been so bad and no balls bounce our way and we fumble it all the time. We throw so many interceptions and it's so great to see we finally got that bobble interception. And it's just, we've lost so many games. Finally, it falls to us. I'm like, look at CU. I was in the car with my wife and she's like, Nebraska's been so bad. I'm like, right now, read out Nebraska's win-loss or wins over the last 20 years. Now read CU's. She's like, oh yeah, that is bad. I'm like, yeah, it's bad.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
I have to think as that ball was traveling that should have been an interception by Levant Bentley and then wasn't.
Oh my God.
That it was like an unstoppable force, immovable object where the ball had to decide who it hated more. And it always decides at the end of the day, Colorado, but the ball really had to think about Nebraska too. And that's kind of why you saw it all over the place. But everything that could go wrong has to go wrong. And we're trying to let go of hell. And it's so hard because I think we're still here. And so, you look around, it's like nothing has changed. And Sreyas, you sent earlier the ship of Theseus where, all of the parts change and yet is the ship still the same? And I'm here to tell you definitively that it is, because we have changed literally every part of this program. And we are still seeing, if you had told me that Mike McIntyre or Dan Hawkins had called that game, I would have believed you. Like, it's like, except more with more
Don't
swagger,
disrespect Mike
with more
McIntyre
swagger.
like that. He won in Lincoln.
Well, yeah, it's like
True.
like so uninspired, and I don't know.
I
Like,
still love
it's
Coach
more the
Prime.
same.
I still
And
love Coach Prime.
I
if
love.
Ryan
I will
actually
always
listens to our podcast,
Yeah.
he can tweet at us right now, and I
Hey.
will take it back.
I'll say this. I will always love Coach Prime. I love Coach Prime. I love Deion Sanders before he was CU. I loved what he was doing at Jackson State. What I loved about Coach Prime is the multi-sport star, right? I mean, he put on for baseball too, which at a time, especially where, football's popularity was skyrocketing. I love that. I'll always be a Deion Sanders Coach Prime fan, always, right? But my God, the ship of Theseus comparison is terrifying. It's terrifying because we really did it's completely new personnel, new coaching staff, new facilities, practically new scoreboard,
100 new players.
New president.
Yeah, it's
New president.
yeah, new president. Who cares? New president.
New
New chancellor.
Ralphie.
New transfer rules, right? We like CU is
Half
notoriously
of our
bad
fans
with
are
the transfer rules.
new.
Half of our fans are new, but
All right,
it's
we're
the
being
same.
We're
it's the
going
same, and it can't
circles.
be the same. It's the same, and it can't be the same.
We are going in circles, Jake, in more ways than one.
Yes.
You're right, it'll always be the same. On that cheerful note, we should do our Q Wealth Management Players of the Game, sponsored by Q Wealth Management. Please go to qwealthmanagement.com to learn more. Topher, you really enjoyed that game. Do you want to announce our Q Wealth Management players? Are you allowed to announce our Q Wealth Management players?
I don't know. Who cares?
You really enjoyed
on
that game? What?
On offense, we decided to go with Travis Hunter. I mean, Jimmy had a quiet game. We were expecting a lot more from him. Shador looked not great. Running backs were non-existent. O-line, I think we could get better blocking from literal trash cans out there. So, Travis, you get it.
Over 100 receiving yards. Actually, really quick, Brian Howe tweeted out a cool stat. So let's be a little positive here after all that negativity. Quote Brian Howe, fun fact on Travis Hunter, last night was the third consecutive 100-yard receiving game. The last Colorado player to do that was Charles E. Johnson in 1993. So kudos to Travis, man. He hasn't let us down in the last 2 years. Love Travis.
He was frustrated.
He really is.
He was so frustrated on the sideline.
I get it. I totally get it. I mean, y'all saw the Pro Football Focus tweet from Adam Munstertiger earlier, hopefully, but he was our top-rated offensive and defensive player last night. Imagine that, like one guy being your top offensive and defensive rated player by any metric. It's incredible. We're so lucky to be able to watch Travis Hunter. I'll say that. Like, and that would not happen in any other era, right? Like the fact that we were able to get that kind of a talent here, my goodness.
But
we
Sreyas,
never had the number one player.
he might be the Football Focus best offensive and defensive player, but not with the QL Management Award, which is really the one that everyone's vying for.
That's the one that you want to go for.
But if not
true.
Travis, who Topher?
Yeah, it's just Travis. But on defense, we decided to go with Cam, Silman, Craig. Oh, sorry, I misunderstood the question.
I thought you were changing it on us. No, yeah, please.
No.
Cam
Cam, Silman,
balled out.
Craig. Cam was bringing hard hits, and he was playing downhill, and that's a physicality we definitely missed against North Dakota State, and I think we definitely felt it. The only critique I have is that one long bomb on the play action that should have been picked. Also, I want to build off of this. Dylan didn't beat us. Oh my God, the announcers with how much they were hyping up Dylan. He sucks. He's an average quarterback right now.
Before we get there, let's
Oh
talk.
my God,
Let's
flip
talk Cam. Yeah,
Talk Cam. He had a great game.
Talk Cam.
Played downhill.
Let me just go through the stats. He led the team in tackles at 11. He also led the team in TFLs, tackles for loss, as a safety.
That's crazy.
That was the big thing I noticed. He was phenomenal on the run game. He might have had a sack, maybe not. I don't think we had any sacks. Did we have any sacks? But he was great. He was great.
What do y'all think about having a defensive back and not a linebacker leading your team in tackles and tackles for loss?
That's
awful. A little deceptive. It's a little deceptive because Cam played a lot in the box, especially in the second half. That's part of our second half adjustment is he came up and we were doing a lot more squeeze and replace, and then he was blitzing a lot. So yes, he's a safety, but he's playing like a linebacker star type of position rather than a true safety playing at 15 back.
Special teams.
Fair enough. Yeah, special teams.
The only guy that did anything worth a damn on special teams, BJ Green.
It's a great punt block.
Awesome.
That's a great punt block.
As far as big plays, that was a huge play. But the rest of special teams was so atrociously bad, and we already kind of tucked on it. But
you didn't like that 62-yard field goal attempt?
Let's go there now.
All right. First of all, I like that we tried that because you might as well smoke them if you got them. Go for it. But
what was the score?
God.
We were down by so much.
28-0.
28-0.
Right.
Go for it.
You're never going to, I don't know.
You're never going to make it.
At least
BYU did. You all remember when BYU made that bomb?
BYU also has real kickers.
Well, okay,
no, it was a Hail Mary. I'm talking about the BYU in Nebraska.
Okay.
They've done it. We could, we have a quarterback that can get it there. Why don't you take a shot?
All right. Topher, let's hear your takes on the place kicking.
We called it. It was the most predictable outcome of all time that Mata would get his kick blocked. If I was scouting against CU, I would look at the film and do exactly what Nebraska did and be like, I need a tall guy and I need a really strong guy. And I need you, strong guy, you're just pushing this guy back. If you get back 3 yards, all you have to do is just jump up and you're going to tip it every time. His kick that he did make, he didn't even get over his goddamn hands. It got to the left of the hands. That's unacceptable. He should have had 2 kicks blocked last night. You are a Division I kicker. I personally know 4 guys that can get their kicks higher than that. I play semi-pro. I don't have my education paid for. I don't have ESPN watching me. All right? Yeah, no. This is where you're going to see, right? To all the people watching on YouTube, I'm not talking out of my ass. I can kick better than Mata.
I was watching like Arizona NAU yesterday, and I thought that NAU's kicker was doing a pretty good job. Northern Arizona, FCS school, right?
I don't think would Mata start for any other FBS team.
There you go.
Call
Topher,
a spade.
No. Topher, you mentioned you were watching the CSU UNC game a little bit.
UNC's kicker Hunter Green nailed a 57, no problem.
We're using 2 scholarships on kickers, and neither one of them. Well, we honestly don't know how Jace can do. I mean, that
Jace
one huge kick
struggles
is unfair.
He's a big leg. He missed some kicks last year too.
That was last year. Maybe he improved. I don't know.
Mata
has regressed. He was better last year. He got it up in the air last year. What is going on? Kind of, right. I mean, he wasn't great. He wasn't great last year. He made him, but I think he's regressed a bit. But yeah, Chase, you mentioned it. Cole Becker, he was on the C roster. He was part of the guys that left when Prime came, and that was the biggest loss by far of the guys that left. He's over at Utah now, and he's probably going to be in the NFL, I would guess.
He's
For
really
sure.
good. And we had him. He was here. He was our only good player in 2022. He was our only good player.
That's not true. We had Jordan Tyson.
Who's at ASU now, right? Oh my god.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
The bottom line is the kicking was so bad, and this is another conversation about in-game. This is another criticism of Coach Prime. I have to look at the kicking situation and go, there's no way these are the best two kickers that you could have found. Like, it is just so hard for me to swallow that truth. And I don't even think that Mata is better than Feely, right? Maybe more consistent, but I don't think he's better than Feely. So why is Mata getting the nod? I have no idea.
You gotta wonder,
the other one,
you gotta wonder whether it's like narrative driven or something, right? Like
maybe.
This is a tangent. We can talk about Charlie often ball struggles and whether he should be playing as much as he does too, and whether there's a correlation there.
Shall we? Because I have thoughts.
I know Topher. Let's let Topher finish his point.
Okay.
I kind of cut him off. We got a lot to talk about. It's crazy.
And the last one we have to talk about is Mark Bassett. Like, overall, he had a good game, but he screwed us on his first punt. He absolutely screwed us on that first punt. When you are playing an away game in an energy like that, like, the goal is make it out of the first quarter alive. Make it out of the first quarter and have it still be the game, because they're going to come out and they're going to throw everything they have at you. And if you weather the storm and make it a game, you're going to be fine, right? When we go a quick batted ball, a drop screen pass, and then a sack, and then a short netting 30-yard punt, that's compound breaking down. So we gotta get that out, and it's not even like, I don't think the pressure was too much to the point where that would cause that. It was just a bad hit.
And really quick, we're also not kicking touchbacks. The kick that like dropped on the 15-yard line, which actually worked in our favor. But like, come on, you're kicking it to the 15-yard line.
I was watching with someone that was like, Feely can kick it out of the end zone. I'm like, no, he can't. No, he cannot. He can kick it 5 yards deep at altitude. And then you saw the difference between altitude and sea level. He couldn't even get it. He barely get it to the 5. Barely get it to the 5. How we are?
Don't get it.
That's all I got. I can't say anymore.
I love the way that the tone has shifted from the beginning of this pod, where we were kind of like, oh, happy to be alive, like this is great, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, infuriating moments. It is just one game. It is just one game,
and it's not a conference game. It's not a conference game.
It's not a conference game. It's the playoff era.
Should be.
Yeah, it really should be. I wish it was again, right? It's cool getting to play them super often for this type of stuff, right? And it incites so much passion, and that's good. That is a good thing.
And we should call. I mean, it hasn't been rescheduled, and I know it's not on our end, but I really do hope that they get that back on the schedule, because even at this point, it would be 6-7 years out. So hopefully we can.
But
we're gonna have to deal with all those tweets.
I will say the one positive thing of this is the rivalry is even more heated after this game, and Nebraska's not going to be too scared to schedule us. If we beat them, had 4 in a row, that 80 is going to be too scared to schedule CU. So there's one positive for you.
Yeah, that is true.
It tastes like vinegar. Yeah.
Okay, so with that said, let's actually try to focus on some positives here, because I think we've let out a lot of frustration. All of it's warranted. All of us have been vocal in saying that we're not out on Prime at all in any way. Just as being the leader of the CU team and having improved from where we were and that trajectory that we were on under Carl. So let's focus on some of those positives here. I know all of you guys saw and have commented on, at least in our discussions offline, about the adjustments made in the second half. So I want to go around here, and I want to hear what you guys think specifically about that. I know Topher in particular, you did some film review. What did you think about those adjustments?
I mean, the big picture is in the first half, we were getting knocked off the ball. On the rewatch, there were multiple reps where our D line was 2, 3, 4 yards downfield because their O line was just generating a huge push. And then in the second half, that wasn't the case. Biggest difference, and it might be literally just the coach going, "Hey guys, how about we fire out at their belly buttons and then try to stand them up?" And that adjustment seemed to work. We were doing a lot better job of getting our hands inside their chest plates, getting extension, be able to get on 2 gaps and all that kind of stuff. The other adjustment is we started bringing Cam down into the box. So he was there to, if they would squeeze, it would squeeze and replace from our linebackers into their gaps. And we did a lot better job being sure tacklers in the second half. And that's 2 games in a row where we have shown, where the defense has shown resilience and execution and understanding of football philosophy. It's saying, why are we doing this? Because this is how we need to do it in order to win. What a coordinator would do, Chase, for you, Pat Shurmer defense.
Yeah. What do you think about the comments that some people were making about Nebraska going very vanilla in the second half, up by 4 scores, and never needing to take any risks that would actually warrant any like real adjustments, like major adjustments to be made to solve them?
Really quick, a candid comment. I wish CU would have done that against Stanford when they were up by 28 points. But go for it, Topher.
Great point.
Go for it.
I thought that yesterday was a great example of what a good coaching staff will do to protect their quarterback. Like I said, I don't think Dylan is that overtly talented. Like, he had one memorable good throw that I'm like, you are probably a very select few people that could do it. And it was a 2nd and long, layered the ball on a Tampa 2 coverage and got it there. That was a great throw. Everything else, mid. That should have been a pick. Got a touchdown out of it. Should have been a pick on the short play action. Should have been a pick twice. He threw it at DJ McKinney twice. DJ McKinney was in this position twice. Should have been picks both times.
And he didn't turn
Dylan
around.
is not that good.
They were underthrown, and he did not turn around.
It's the second start, so we'll give him a little bit of,
But like,
maybe.
to the comments, are like, you need to go vanilla. No. They can't do anything else. Nebraska cannot do anything else. They came out with a great game plan. They said, we have a great O-line, which they do, and we have very talented running backs, which they do. And we are going to lean on those 2 things. We are going to push their D-line around. We're going to create gaps, and then we're going to take the pressure off of Dylan. We're going to make it very clear to Dylan, so like, you don't need to make plays. We're going to give you opportunities to, but you don't have to. It's not the end of the world if you don't. And they executed that game plan with precision. The level of coaching difference.
Wouldn't it be funny if that game last night was Nebraska's version of our TCU game last year, where they get ranked, they get super excited, but then other teams find and exploit certain weaknesses that they have. Maybe our defense
CU exposed them a little bit last night.
They have a cupcake schedule though, which is so frustrating. I was looking at their schedule. They have Illinois, Rutgers, UCLA.
Illinois beat
undefeated.
Kansas.
Yeah,
Illinois beat Kansas.
True.
What Jake's saying is they didn't draw Penn State, so they got to take a cakewalk through the Big Ten.
There you go.
There you go.
Going back to the defense. First off, I'll take Dylan Raiola 5 out of 5 times next year as a freshman quarterback. But going back to the defense, a lot of good and bad, mostly good. I'll start with the bad. 0 turnovers. My prediction was 2 picks this game. Freshman quarterback, they're applying pressure. You would have thought there would have been turnovers. Also, Nebraska, we mentioned this last podcast, leads college football in turnovers by a wide margin since 2005. Shocking we got no turnovers. We lost in the turnover margin. I think we gave the ball up twice, a fumble and an interception. So that was disappointing. And you hit the nail on the head, Topher, on why that was. We're not turning around, and a lot of balls were underthrown, didn't take advantage. But there was a lot of good from the defense. Let's take a step back. Nebraska scored 28 points. 7 of those points were from Shedeur Sanders throwing a pick. So you're down to 28. Another one of those drives, we went for it on 4th down, or 2 of those drives, we went for it on 4th down within our own 50. So they only have to drive half the field to get a touchdown.
And the shank punt.
Those 2, and the shank punt. Take all those off the board. This defense gave up, call it 14 points, roughly, right? You got down to 21 with the pick. They gave up 14 points against a team. I think Nebraska is a really good football team. I think the running game is really good. They got good, solid running backs. I think they have a great offensive line. Looking at the stats, Dante Dowdle, who's their starting running back, averaged 4.4 yards per carry, which isn't phenomenal. I thought we did a pretty good job on the run defense, especially in the second half. And I was very impressed with the adjustments that were made.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to build off of there. Well, we'd hope. I think as long as, well, the thing that stinks is they kind of came out flat against North Dakota State as well, right? So it's 2 straight weeks where first half or defense comes out and kind of gets run over, and then all of a sudden they put the clamps down and look a lot better in the second half. Hopefully CSU is a get right game from the jump for both units. That would be awesome. But at least there's some, I think, significant positives to build off of there, that hopefully the coaching staff can keep the spirits up and not just let them completely get deflated from that loss. I think the fact that it's a non-conference loss, you really got to look at that differently now, especially with the playoff system, and you just got to win the Big 12. Like if you have that as a mindset, as a goal.
Right. And they're ranked, and it's an away game. So like, honestly, not a bad loss, but still hurts.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So with that said, I know, Jake, you started fielding some questions from Twitter, from X, and you said that we would answer some of them. It sounded like there's a lot of Nebraska questions, which is kind of funny.
Welcome to our Mentions Nebraska. Our payout from X is going to be $100,000 this month. We appreciate it.
We're going to donate it all to CU.
All of them were like, you guys need to get a new job. You guys make so little money. It's like, okay. We will. Don't worry. I'll leave it
to our day jobs. We'll stick to our day jobs.
Okay. Sorry. I wasn't ready for this, but now I'm ready. I'm going to not answer all the questions because, again, Nebraska was in our mentions a lot. But first question, and I have a feeling this one's going to take a long time. Let's be a little short with this one, if we can. Is from Silver Buff. Is CU cursed?
I feel like I've already ranted.
Answer that. Yes.
I've already ranted about this. Yes.
Yes. All right. Moving on. So this one is from a Nebraska fan. And this one, yeah, from a Nebraska fan.
From Jake _ Nebraska fan.
Okay. Do you still have faith in Dion after that? I'm a biased Husker fan, obviously, but I don't see how a Buffalo fan, quote, not a Dion fanboy, but a real CU fan, could have confidence in this team this season, and particularly in the future. No high school recruiting base, and his top players are all leaving for the NFL.
Yeah, fair concern. Very fair concern. I think I touched on it already with I don't think the offense in its current form is good enough to win 6 games. But as the person that came into the season with the lowest expectations, and as someone who has repeatedly said, I just want a team that doesn't embarrass me, give me 6 wins. I'm happy. It keeps me wearing the polo at work without having to take people's grief who went to other schools. That's all I need. Just give me that.
Yeah.
I'm down with Prime. People talk about the antics and all that. That's part of the it's a package deal, right? He's always done it that way. He's always done things his way. I think the flashy aspect of things are fine. I know there's some segments of the CU fan base, like the older time fans, who are embarrassed by it. Whatever, man. That's cool. Like, everything's becoming like that. Notice how CU is not the only program that acts that way anymore, right? This is ubiquitous. It's throughout the entire sport. The transfer portal is being used that way throughout the sport. No one's talking about Indiana and Kurt Signetti in his first year pulling the same stuff over there. I think Louisville did that. USC did that with Lincoln Riley, maybe to a slightly lesser extent. Like, all the stuff that comes with Prime, it's just out there. He's just a lightning rod for it and a target for it. And if he wants to stay and keep building that way, and as long as we're respectable enough, like if you give me 6 to 8 wins a year, That's better than what we've had for 20 years. It's been that bad. I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I love Coach Prime. Keep me there. And I know that I'm sure to that Nebraska fan that asked that question, you probably think I'm insane, but we're coming from a place of low that Nebraska hasn't seen. Nebraska hasn't had the worst team, the worst scoring offense, and one of the 3 worst scoring defenses in the entire FBS in the same season. CU's had that twice since 2012. Twice. Like, that's the bottom of the bottom. Nebraska has always had the trenches going. They have bad turnover luck or just culture of turnovers for many years. Jake pointed that out on X last week. And they've had some devastating, heartbreaking losses, and I get it. And then Scott Frost not panning out was, I'm sure, devastating, like your national championship winning quarterback not panning out. But it's not the same. Like, the place that CU is at was insanely bad. It was a level of bad that only Kansas and only other handful of FBS programs, Power 5, I'll say Power 5 programs, have really gotten down to. So yeah, I'm not out on Prime at all. I think that I'd be fine with it as long as they keep going.
And let me just hop in really quick. I don't think you'll meet any, just to generally answer, and maybe, this would be a good thing for people to respond on YouTube is, what are your thoughts on this? But I don't think most pre-Prime Colorado fans, I don't think you could find more than a handful that would say that they don't want Prime to stick around regardless of what happens, because the oxygen that it brings the program is unbelievable. And it'll be interesting to see, after Shedeur and Travis are gone this year, and probably Shiloh, and can he restock in the transfer portal? He sure as hell isn't planning on bringing in high school kids, or at least he hasn't so far. So it's going to have to be through the portal. So it'll be interesting. Is his heart still going to be in it? I don't know. But, right now, Prime is our ride or die guy. I think the only CU grad you're going to find who wants him gone is going to be Jake Shapiro, and I'll call him out. But I just don't think there's many Colorado fans who, are talking about what Sreyas went through that are like, pull the plug. I'm not having fun. Like, we're still having fun. You're still talking about us. We're still all over college football world. We could lose 11 more games and we'd only get talked about more because people like to talk about us so much more when we're losing. So, like, I don't know. I think it's worth it, and we keep experimenting, and I don't think you're going to find a lot of people that don't want it, even with the antics. So.
And I have to comment, because this was my hot take, that he's a bad in-game coach. So I have to talk to this. Do you still have faith in Dion after that? This is one game. It's not a conference game. I predicted this game as a loss, and I still had 8 wins, and I'm still pretty confident in that. Honestly, my worry meter has tilted up a little bit, but honestly, I still see this team as making a bowl pretty easily. Hopefully, that doesn't come on me. Knock on wood. But that was one game, and it's not even a conference game. We can still go to the Big 12 championship. Now, granted, we saw a lot of holes in this team. But just to all the reasons, Sreyas, you and Chase said, we're not giving up on Coach Prime. He's done so much for the community, and he's brought so much excitement to this program. So, with that, next question.
Oh, wait, real quick.
Yep, go for it, Topher.
Not out on Coach Prime, but Sreyas and Chase, that's loser mentality. To be clear, right?
You are still pro Tad Boyle, so you and Jake have to decide which way you're going. You have to decide. It's one or the other.
But Tad can coach. Tad can coach. Tad can develop. Tad has proved it. Coach Prime has not. Coach Prime can help in this game. Coach Prime can help get us brand recognition. Coach Prime can do all those things. But I'm not going to be sitting here.
Coach Prime proved it at Jackson?
He got more talent at Jackson, right? Like, there was definitely better schemes at Jackson, but at this point, he has not proved it at Colorado. And if he has more years of mediocrity, I'm sorry. I want to win, right? There will come a day where I go, sorry, Coach Prime. I love you for the brand.
I want Jay Norvell to come coach Colorado, because that sounds better than what we have right now. That's what we're talking about. That's who's going to
Absolutely not. But if we're just okay with being mediocre because of the attention it gets us, that's such loser. Feel bad for me. This used to be a nationally prevalent football team that would win football games. Let's get back to winning football games. That should be the standard that the fans want, the standard that the fans need, and the standard that we need to hold our coaching staff to.
if
Coach
you
Prime
want to go
hasn't done
back,
that
we're going
yet.
back to 11 losses. We're not going back. I mean, the path forward is through Coach Prime, and I mean, that's it. That's
Yeah,
our
it's,
chance.
for sure. I don't disagree. But to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm okay with the mediocrity in perpetuity, not for me. There will come a day when on this podcast, if Coach Prime continues to lead us into mediocrity, I will turn on him. And I will be the first one to do it.
Clip
Probably.
Clip it.
That's fair. I respect that. I respect that take for sure. And I guess to be fair, if this happens, I mean, if we have more 4 or 5 win seasons for like the next 4 years, I mean, I was out on Mike McIntyre in 2018, right? And Mike McIntyre was only 2 years removed from an absolutely glorious 10-win season where, God, like so much went right. And I was out on him in 2018. Like what happened against Oregon State that year, and then not winning a game the rest of the season. Like, yeah, it was time for him to go. So I'd probably get to that point eventually too. But yeah,
One more question, and this might be a good transition. There's a lot of other questions, but they're awful questions. So one more question: will there ever be a running game, or will the play calling keep catering to Shador's ego? From a Nebraska fan.
interesting.
Oh, from a CU fan, actually.
Oh, interesting. Do you guys see it that way? Do you see this as more of an ego thing? I know Topher talked about this quite a bit. It's like trying to get the ball into the hands of your playmakers, and that's what you got. But we got to run the ball. We have to run the ball now.
Well,
Like,
why would it be Shador's ego? Why would it be Shador? I know he can audible.
Daddy ball.
Well,
Daddy
and when
ball,
Sean
you're
Lewis,
so
Sean
Coach
Lewis
Prime
left,
making the decision.
when Sean Lewis left, it was like it was pretty much understood that there was some friction there because Prime wanted to be throwing, and Sean Lewis disagreed with the amount.
That was a rumor though, right?
That was a rumor. I don't know, but that's where it's coming from. I'm not saying whether it's true or false. I'm just saying like that's the understanding, and I think there's probably a little bit of that. And I think Coach Prime is, when you see him in the interviews, he's like, my son's the best player on the field. I mean, he believes it, but I do think there's a little interest in stat padding there. But you can't stat pad. You cannot make a passing game work if you do not commit to the run. And I think they're going to have to. They're going to have to. It's existential at this point. And hopefully, it's unfortunate we don't have an absolute cupcake on the schedule where we could establish a run game by running the ball 50 times in a row because you're killing them. And hopefully that's Colorado State, but I don't think it is. So, you're going to have to establish a run game by necessity. Somehow, some way you got to make it work because it is killing your passing game to be so one-dimensional.
And it's probably resulting in more sacks too, because now you don't even have to respect the idea of CU running the ball. You can just go attack the quarterback, and they attacked.
Fortunately,
Tyler
our
Hansen
offense
tweeted that
is
out.
in good hands, and I very much believe in our mastermind calling the plays, and he's going to get us out of this mess.
No.
Former Viking coach.
Okay, I have to comment on this because we're talking about the run game, and I think the play calling's awful for the run game. We were doing a lot of shotgun runs, and they're all up the middle. Who are the best players on the field? Okay, retract that. Who are the best players on Nebraska's team? The 2 defensive tackles right in the middle. Why are we running the ball there? Number 1. Number 2, why didn't we adjust our our blocking to account for those guys? We got demolished up the middle, and that's more on the pass side. So
we tried.
I digressed a bit. But I just hate that our run, every single run is from the shotgun. And I think maybe because we're trying to do RPOs or option runs, I don't know. But Ryan Koenigsberg noted this on his podcast that it seemed like they were trying to run it from the pistol a little bit more. That makes sense, and it was working. Why can't we just adopt a traditional run package? Why can't we tell them we're running? It'll work. Why haven't we tried that? Topher, what'd you see in the film review? Because I haven't watched the game yet. I just got back from Nebraska.
This is such a great segue because this is where I'm going to tear Pat Shurmer to shreds. Okay, when you run an RPO, right? What is the O lineman not allowed to do? Cross the line of scrimmage.
Sorry, I was
okay. Crossing the line of scrimmage is not something they can do. How hard is it to run block if you can't large forward on run blocking? It's really difficult. You know how long it was before we had a designed run where it was not Shador reading the defense? It was in designed, you have to hand it off. It wasn't until the goddamn second quarter.
When you're down by
Okay.
28.
And so this is a no-brainer at this point, right? Like there might be truth to you have to let Shador pass because I saw RPO, RPO, RPO. 4th and inches, we're gonna go from shotgun and we're gonna run an RPO. Why? Why? We have to get 6 goddamn inches. You gotta let your big dogs lurch forward and push them back. Instead, we do this shotgun, read it. Oh, first read's not there. O-line's getting blown off the ball because they have to reach block, and then they have a guy that's reading the pass. So we had no options, and we die on 4th and inches. That's terrible offensive coordinating. So no, I don't think the RN game is going to exist as long as we're going to sit there and let Shador throw all the time. We have to stop running the RPO. Bottom line, if I see an RPO against CSU, I'm going to have a goddamn aneurysm.
And it's been happening for so long. This isn't just this year. This isn't just Sean Lewis. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. I know our offensive line sucks, but guess what? They're going to suck so much more if you don't run the ball because pass rush is so much different than defending the run. It's so much easier to rush the quarterback when you know they're not running. You can do spin moves. You can get creative with your rush packages. It totally opens you up and makes you more susceptible and is not going to benefit your quarterback. What do you guys think about Charlie Offerdahl versus Dallin Hayden? Really quick. Dallin Hayden had 5 carries for 32 yards, averaged 6.4 yards per carry. Charlie Offerdahl, 4 carries for 4 yards, average 1 yard per carry. And Isaiah Augustave, 2 carries for 6 yards. And we saw no Micah Welch. Sreyas and Chase, you guys have been quiet. Do you guys have thoughts?
I thought Dallin Hayden, even against North Dakota State, he didn't have a big game as far as rushing yards, but he showed some elusiveness at least, which was really nice. And I know he did get stopped on 4th down on that 4th and 1 play against North Dakota State. So it's not all Charlie's fault, but you gotta get the hands in your playmakers. That's what you were saying earlier, right? Dallin's clearly one of our playmakers. Like he's elusive. He had one very nice run in that second half. And the guys who I was with, or the folks who I was with, as soon as I saw that, I was like, when was the last time we had a 15-yard run? Like Jarek Broussard in 2020?
Didn't Dallin have one this game?
That's what I'm saying. When was the last, other than that was the first time I'd seen one in years. Years. And that was, I mean, it should give you hope as long as they feed him the ball. Now we'll see. And this is where the narrative driven thing, like if we are narrative driven, the Charlie Offerdahl story is amazing. And God, it's so hard pointing fingers at these guys because I really do like them. Their stories are so cool. Like Charlie, clearly he cares so much. He's a local kid, you know, he's from Denver area.
Less cool when you get 1 yard per carry.
A lot less cool. A lot
that
less.
Really ruins.
He's so much better at pass blocking. Well, he's so much better at pass blocking.
I wanted to mention that because I actually wanted to give Dallin a shout out as well, as far as like he had actually a really good crack block that kept Shador in a play and extended it. The running backs are out there like lunch pail mentality blocking pretty well. Like I think as far as positive things to take away from this game, they are doing much better than I expected. Pretty impressive. And I think you're totally right. I think we need to. He was my upside player, in our preview episode. All the Ohio State fans that I know are like, I don't understand why you're not using him more. When we use him and we commit to him, it makes your second down and third down so much easier if you can go run and get 4 yards on first down instead of losing 1 because you get blown up. And if they actually have to respect the fact that you might run the ball. And I get why they're running out of the shotgun because you want them to respect it to set up your passing game. But like Jake said, God forbid we actually just go run the ball because we want to punch you in the mouth and dominate. And I don't know. I think it's going to get there. I believe in our brilliant offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmer, to come up with a package that can do this.
You're really dying on that hill. Do you
What?
really
I've
believe
decided
Pat
this
Shurmer
is my last stand. This is where I die. I leave it all on Pat Shurmer.
On Pat Shurmer? That's an interesting
and
one.
It's a horrible place to be because I didn't even like his hire in the first place. But because you've been so negative and so many other things went wrong that game, I feel like I have to make my last stand here. But just
the only defense I have for the shotgun is Shador has taken one snap under center and he almost fumbled it. So maybe that's why we don't go under center.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder. So y'all got it all out? You feeling better? Was that a good therapy session? Do we need to
Yes.
still pay for therapy?
Might.
We're CU fans. That
Therapy's
should be
good. Therapy's
standard.
good. Therapy's good. Everyone should do therapy. But my goodness, yeah, it does feel good to get it all out. So other thoughts. So looking around, what a ref show in the second half. That was unwatchable with penalties on every play. It was just awful. And then the injuries. Getting worried. Hopefully Shiloh's okay. We're starting to lose depth before even getting to conference play. That's a terrible, terrible idea. Yeah,
At least
thoughts, Jake?
Carter Starmeyer looked pretty good behind Shiloh. So that's good. But losing Nwanko too, he's banged up. That's a big loss, right? I don't know how long he's out. Honestly, when I heard of the Shiloh injury, I thought, is he going to be out for the year? Because the rumor was that he broke his forearm, I believe. And then just seeing some tweets from the media, they were saying he might be back. He probably won't be back next week. I'm thinking, okay, if that's the barometer, sweet. That's better than I thought.
That's the temperature check. Sick. We're chilling.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
All right.
Well, with the therapy session over, I think we preview Colorado State. I'm not going to promise to barbecue and eat my foot this time. I've learned my lesson. As the guy who said he's going to eat dog poop for Florida State probably appears to have learned, at least by deleting his account. So Colorado State coming up. Another game on CBS. So kind of cool, even like we were talking about with the exposure, NBC and then CBS this week. Those are networks that the Buffs have not exactly been staples on in recent years. 7:30 kick at night in not Hughes Stadium, the new one, Canvas Stadium now. Over under 59.5. Weather's supposed to be 90 degrees at game time. Colorado is a 7.5 point favorite. We'll do quick preview. I know the skeleton is the fact that Mr. Horton is not feeling well, a little banged up. Jake, you want to debrief that and then give your no? Okay, well, he's hurt. That's the big thing. Their big time wide receiver should be a first round pick, probably, I'd imagine. But with that being said, I am going to take the over on this game, and I'm going to take Colorado to cover at we'll call it 30. Let's call it 42 to 21. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think Colorado's offense is going to find its swagger, and the people are going to start believing again. I think it is also going to be probably about 40% Colorado fans, which I'm pretty excited about, because that miserable stadium, or it's a great stadium, but totally empty ghost town. It's like Lubbock, Texas in there, and it'll be cool to see them actually sell it out for
Always Lubbock, Chase.
We're slowly building a rivalry with Texas Tech.
We're trying.
Chase, do you have any very specific predictions? Any unique predictions?
I think it's going to be a points fest. I think this is a game that we actually start fast. It's going to be very different. I just don't
the most
think,
vague prediction I've ever heard.
I don't know. Like, I'm not going to predict 2 interceptions, anything like that. I just think that we need to start fast again. And I think our defense is going to have a field day on this one. And here's my crazy hot prediction. We will get more than 0.5 sacks this game.
I like that. All right. I think from now on, I'm just going to be negative. I think that's going to be my new, that's going to be my new thing.
But Pat Shurmer is the offensive coordinator, Sreyas.
I'm just gonna be negative from now on. Hopefully that helps the team. I know Jake took that approach with Nebraska this year, didn't work out, but maybe it'll work out for me. I don't think I'm not gonna predict a loss, but in honor of the terrible Broncos game today and the weird first half score, I think it was 13-9 at halftime, but that was on 2 safeties and 3 field goals. I'll take CU, we'll say 10-4. All right, so we're going to win 10-4.
That Broncos game really inspired you, right?
We're gonna take 2 safeties.
It's been done.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to somehow take 2 safeties and then we're going to shut them out otherwise.
Man,
It's
a
10 to
Nebraska
4.
loss really took us off our rocker.
I'm just, I don't know if I actually believe that, but I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not, I want to be proven wrong. That's the biggest thing. I want to be proven wrong. Show me something. Give me some data to show me the trajectory is different than the same trajectory I've seen for 16 years of being a season ticket holder. And then maybe I'll go back to what I was doing last week with higher scoring predictions. So go Buffs though. Come on.
But every Nebraska fan said we just became CU fans because we just created this podcast. Not true.
Oh, okay.
I can go next because I'm going to be pretty opposite with this pick. We lost one game to a top 25 team on the road in one of the most hostile environments in college football. I'll give Nebraska their kudos. We lost to a good team. We're going to blow out CSU 42-10.
I like
10
it.
might be generous because their stars hurt. I still believe in the Buffs. Yes, there are huge issues. We called them out throughout this entire podcast. But CSU sucks. I didn't watch their week 2 game, but just looking at their game with Texas, it was atrocious. Jay Norvell, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be the head coach of CSU after this year. I think you'll be around for the whole year, but yeah, CU is going to blow them out. I have a couple specific predictions, one of which being I think there'll be less CU fans than people think will be there. I don't think it's going to be near 40% CU fans. No one wants to go up to Fort Collins. There's nothing up there. It takes forever to get up there. I'll be surprised if we get like over a third. We'll see. I could be wrong. And then my other prediction is we're going to get 3 or more sacks this game. Finally have a pass rush, which will be refreshing.
Yeah, I like it. I'm more in line with Jake on this. I really do think we are going to have a very successful outing in Fort Collins this upcoming weekend. To the points that our defense hasn't started fast against North Dakota State, they came out with one of the best executed offensive game plans. It was a thing art, right? Like it was very nuanced, and the halftime adjustments eliminated it. But coming in with no film, that's expected. First half against Nebraska, getting pushed around because they're bigger than us, and then in the second half realizing that we do actually know how to play football. We came through. I really think this is where we're going to put it together. I like our defense. I like the 42-10 prediction. I don't think we'll score quite that much. So I'll give you 35-7. And I also think that we will probably get 3 picks this game. I don't. UNC's DBs are not very good. Texas's are obviously very good. And you don't have your main target. I just don't think this guy's going to have a very successful day.
Do we know if Horton's for sure out? I didn't see what the injury was.
Not 100%, but it sounds pretty serious.
Oh, that's too bad.
One question for the group in the Q&A post. There was one question about CSU, and the question is, what should the Buffs game plan look like against CSU? This is for anyone who wants to take it.
I think at this point we've beaten this to death. Dominate, run
the ball.
Run the ball.
Yeah.
And I really do think you need to start fast. I mean, I keep saying that, and for whatever reason, these teams can't get off the ground. I think if we're going to see a game like we've predicted, everyone other than Sreyas, we need to get the ball and go punch them in the mouth and score and end the game. So, but yeah, we've beat it to death, and hopefully we have a more optimistic episode for you guys next week. Thank you for everyone who stuck it out and listened. If you guys could give us a subscription on YouTube, give us a follow on Spotify, X, what have you. If you could please help us with our people in our mentions and on X, come to our aid. We'd appreciate it. But until next week, let's go Buffs. Looking forward to a big win in Fort Collins.
Go Buffs, baby.
Go Buffs, baby.